So, hello, revolutionaries, and welcome back. So, today I have a little surprise for you. We'll be continuing our general psychology series, which we left midway about, I think, 8 months ago. So, let's start with another tough chapter, and it is tough because it's not written in a very easy to understand manner in the book, and because of the hard words that the book is trying to make and all that technicalities, but I've tried to simplify it as much as I could, and I've also made detailed notes of it which span about for 15 or 16 pages, I guess. So let's start. The chapter or the unit is for affective processes. Motivation and emotion. This basically means those processes which affect us or which have an effect on us, and these are motivation and emotion. So we'll be studying about two basic or two important affective processes today, which is motivation and emotions. So let's start with the introduction. I can directly teach you the chapter, the main concept, and all that stuff, but I like to start with the introduction, and I also read all that basic stuff and unnecessary things to make the chapter more easy to digest. You get it? So you can't take, let's say that you can't take protein directly because you won't be able to consume it, so you take it with some other vegetables or some other kind of nutrients so that it becomes easily digestible with all that other food, right? That is why we also read all these other things, so that it becomes easy to understand and fun too. Now let's start with the introduction. Do you recognize this face? Of course, Jack Ma, and I don't know what he's doing right now. A few months ago, or maybe about a year ago, he suddenly disappeared, and people are saying that the Chinese Communist Party has killed him or kidnapped him and stuff like that. And I think most probably they were true. So this person here, his photo is here. It's Jack Ma, one of the self-made billionaires and the richest person of the China. So of course it's not the current data. This book is old, and they're talking about maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. But do you know that in his early childhood, Jack Ma failed in his primary school examinations, not once but twice. He failed thrice during his middle school exams. When applying to universities after his high school, Jack failed the entrance exams thrice before finally joining Hangzhou Normal University. So you can clearly see how poor intellect Jack Ma had. He failed even in the primary school, and twice in primary schools. I think primary schools are from class 1 to 5th or something like that. And then he failed in middle school thrice. He can't even pass his school examination. So you can basically have an idea of how intellectually poor his mind would be, right? And even after that, during university entrance exams, he again failed 3 times. He even applied and wrote to Harvard University 10 times about being admitted and got rejected each time. This was only during his education. During and after his bachelor's degree, Jack tried and failed to get a job at many places. After spending 3 years to get into a university, Jack failed to land a job after applying to them 30 times. But you see that Jack has failed so many times, but you can clearly see the number. It keeps on increasing from 2 to 3 and now then 10 to 30. So it feels like Jack is even more and more motivated to apply for jobs or go somewhere. If you get rejected 2 or 3 times, you start losing hope that nothing could be done about you. You can't get any job. You will die hungry and poor. But Jack tried again and again and again, right? He tried actually 30 times. You don't even call anyone 30 times. If someone says that they can get you a job, you wouldn't possibly even try to call them 30 times if they don't pick up. But Jack actually applied for those jobs 30 times. He recollects in his interview, when KFC came to China, 24 people went for the job, 23 people were accepted. I was the only guy who wasn't. He also was one of the 5 applicants to a job in police force and was the only one getting rejected after being told, no, you're no good. And at this point of time, when someone tells you that no, you're no good, you actually start believing it, that yeah, he's right, man, I'm really not good. I really can't do anything in life. I'm maybe the most useless person in this world ever created, or I'm just a hopeless maniac. I can't ever do anything. There is no hope for me. You actually start believing it all by yourself. Even if other people are motivating you, they're supporting you, that no, you can do something, no, you will be able to do this. Your mind keeps on telling you no, you are useless, you can't do anything. But still, Jack didn't lose hope now, did he? And we know that he became one of the most successful and richest people of China later on. Also, on his entrepreneurial undertakings, Jack Ma went on to fail on two of his initial ventures, but that didn't stop him in any way of dreaming bigger. What do you think? Why some people like Jack Ma persist even after having multiple failures in their life? One reason of his success could be high level of motivation. But what is motivation? Now, motivation, this is a dreadfully hard concept. I mean, it actually jumbled up my mind so much, and I have to read from so many resources, read it so many times, and even after that I have finally understood the meaning of motivation, but I failed to express it in words. Like, I didn't know how to express it to you people, how to explain it to someone else what motivation is, even though I understood it myself now, but I couldn't find those words, those perfect sentences to explain it to others. So there might still be some gaps in the explanation when I explain to you what motivation is. There might still be some gaps, and I don't think I'd be able to fill them up, but I hope that you will continue on reading about it and trying to fill those gaps by yourself. So one reason of his success could be high level of motivation. But what is motivation? In this unit, we will talk about the concept of motivation as well as emotions. We will see how these two terms can explain our behavior. Now, motivations. Motivation refers to complex reactions consisting of physiological responses such as changes in blood pressure and heart rate. Now, for those who don't know what physiological changes is, physiology is basically our body. It's related to our biology, our body. So physiological changes means bodily changes that are expressed or that are made or that happen in our body, okay, in our physical body. Like, it's not related to the mental states, it only related to the physical state. So these are the physiological changes. The subjective feelings, which we describe as happiness, anger, sorrow, disgust, and so on. Expressive reactions that reflect these internal states, such as changes in facial expression or posture. So they are saying that motivation is actually a very complex reaction that consists of these things: physiological responses, subjective feelings, and expressive reactions. So like, it means that when we are motivated, there are changes in our body. There are changes in how we feel, in our emotions basically, and there is changes in how we express those emotions or those feelings. Motivation is simply the reason for an action and what gives purpose and direction to behavior. Now, when you'll read this motivation paragraph and all that, you'll suddenly start thinking that this was not a hard concept. I mean, I easily got what motivation is, I understand what motivation is, but when we start reading the other concepts like motive and there was one more concept, I don't remember it correctly, but it was motive and motivated. Yeah, when you'll read about these two concepts, then suddenly your mind will start playing ping pong and suddenly it all go blank. Like, you'll start rethinking the meaning of motivation. So we'll just do it step by step though. Motivation is what drives you. So it's basically what your purpose is in doing something. Motivation is what your purpose is, what your aim is, what your goal is, what drives you to behave in a certain way or take a particular action. So it's saying that what is the reason why you're doing this particular thing, that is your motivation. I mean, if, like, for example, according to the text that we have read so far, let's take an example that you are mopping the floor. So what is your motivation for mopping the floor? Now, according to the text that we have read so far, your motivation for mopping the floor would be to make it clean, okay? And let's say that someone that you are studying very hard right now. Of course, you are studying very hard, and then what is your motivation for it? Some of you can say that my motivation is to become a teacher, my motivation is to become an IAS officer or a police officer or a doctor, or whatever your motivation might be. More importantly, why do you know? More importantly, do you know why you need to know? The meaning of motivation is to give reason, incentive, enthusiasm, or interest that causes specific action or certain behavior. So they're saying that the meaning of motivation is to provide some kind of interest to you, so you do a particular thing. I mean, if there is no interest, let's say that you want to become an IAS officer. Okay, let's say, take for example that you want to become a civil servant, and so what is your motivation for becoming? So this is your motivation for studying hard. Okay, So this the thought of being a civil servant, this is what gives you enjoyment, this is what gives you a reason, an interest, this is your interest, and this is what gives you the motive. I mean, I'm again jumbling these up, so it might become difficult for you. Let's just go step by step again. As discussed, motivation can be termed as a driving force, or it can also be stated as a process that starts and drives various activities. So they are saying that motivation can be taken as a driving force, as to what drives you, right? So why, what is the reason why you are doing this thing, what is that reason? Or it can also be stated as a process that starts and drives various activities. Or it can also be said as to why you started doing this thing. I mean, you started exercising. Why did you start exercising? Maybe you had a breakup, that's why you started exercising. Or maybe you were really very weak, you were being bullied, so you started exercising. So what is your motivation in the first case? In the first case, your motivation might be to show that girl that you have become a better person, and she should feel guilty of ever having left you. In the second case, your motivation could be that you don't want to be bullied ever again, or maybe you want to bully your bullies, so that's why you started exercising. So this is your motivation for doing this particular work. The term motivation has been derived from a Latin word movere, which means to move. Now we'll read these different definitions of motivations by different psychologists. There are various definitions of motivation, and some of them can be discussed as follows. Feldman defined motivation as the factors that direct and energize the behavior of human and other organisms. So it says that those factors, those things that direct and energize the behavior, that give direction to our behavior and provide energy to. I mean, if you want to become a civil servant, then you must work in a particular direction, right? You must read some particular kind of books, prepare for the interview in some particular kind of way, and you must also put energy into it regularly. And this energy and this direction are provided to you by your motivation. That your motivation is to become a civil servant. If your motivation was to become a doctor, then you would study different kind of books, that is, you would move in a different direction, and but still you would have to provide energy to it every day, of course. So the energy concept is same in all kinds of motivation, but the direction changes. You can take it as like kind of vector quantity. This motivation is like, imagine it to be a vector quantity. It has magnitude and direction and all that. So Feist and Rosenberg define motivation as the urge to move towards one's goal to accomplish tasks. So they are saying that the urge, the feeling, that urge, that thirst to move in a direction towards our goals and to fulfill tasks. That is what motivation is. That urge is motivation. So Camaro Premuzic defined motivation as an internal state, dynamic rather than static in nature, that propels action, directs behavior, and is oriented towards satisfying both instinct and cultural needs and goals. So it's saying that it is an internal state, and it is not static in nature. It is dynamic. It has various various phases. It's not like a single unit. And it propels action, it forces you to take actions, or it asks you to take action, and it directs your behavior, it gives it particular direction, and it is oriented. It is the goal of motivation is to satisfy both your instincts, like what is coming naturally, and cultural needs and goals, and what you need, and all those things that you must do in order to live in this society. They're saying that the things that you need to do in order to manifest with your culture. So those things which are culturally right and those things which you want to do, both of these are satisfied through motivation. Quick Nelson Khandelwal defined motivation as the process of arousing and sustaining goal-directed behavior. So all these are different definitions of motivation. You can read them by yourself later. The video will become too lengthy and boring if I keep on reading them. As can be seen in the above definitions, motivation has been mainly termed as a factor that drives or pushes an organism in certain direction. Now, after reading all those definitions, we are sure of two things, right? That motivation provides energy to our goals, and it also gives direction to our goals. It can thus be described in terms of drive, force, desires, needs, and wishes that may lead to individuals behaving in certain manner, right? So to fulfill our desires, our needs or our wishes, we do a particular thing. Like if you want to eat rice cake or if you want to eat gulab jamun or samosa, so you will get up, you will go to the shop and then you will buy it and eat it, right? If you didn't have any wish, if you didn't have any need of eating those things, then you will simply stay at your home, you will do nothing, right? So a person without motivation is like a lifeless thing. If the person does not have any motivation to live, he will simply stop eating. If a person doesn't have the need to satisfy his hunger, then he will simply stop eating, right? If a person doesn't have any wish, any need to become successful in life, to get a job or to do something logical or to do something worthwhile, then he will simply stop studying. He won't study, he wouldn't care about studying, right? So motivation is what keeps us alive, you can say, in a manner. So a desire to get praise from teacher may motivate a student to perform well in a class activity, right? A wish to gain more knowledge about a certain subject may motivate an individual to take up an educational program in that subject. A hunger drive may prompt an individual to buy biscuits or snacks, just like I said, previous example. A desire to spend with his or her parents may encourage a person to travel long distance. Okay, so thus any human behavior can be said to be as a result of some kind of motivation. So just like I told you, that motivation is what gives you a life, a purpose, a meaning to your life. So motivation is your reason for being alive. So, and that is why it gives power to any kind of behavior that you do. I mean, if you don't have any motivation at all, you'll simply sit on your couch all day, from day and night, and in a few days you'll just die. That's all. So motivation, you can clearly see how important motivation is. Now, in the context of motivation, the three main terms that need to be discussed are needs, drives, and incentives that contribute to motivation. Now, we know the meaning of motivation, but how to put it into definition? How do we define motivation? So, I have written the definition of motivation several times in my notes, because I kept on correcting them and I kept on getting more and more definitions of motivation. And I thought that no matter how many times I write, I wouldn't be able to fully explain to you what motivation actually is. So I actually wrote the definition of motivation multiple times. My first definition is of motivation could be the driving force or energy that moves us in a certain direction to achieve something. So I've said that motivation is that driving force that makes you move, that drives you. Is that driving force, or it can be that driving energy that moves you into a certain direction. And why in that certain direction? To achieve something, so that you can get something, you can achieve something from moving in that direction. I think it's pretty clear what I'm trying to say. I don't need to explain it so hard, right? The second definition of motivation that I've written is the arousing energy that keeps you directed towards a particular goal. So that kind of arousing energy means which gives you some kind of purpose, which arouses you up, which gives you like some kind of strength, or you can say like it makes you attentive. So this is my definition of motivation. You will find it in my notes very easily. So now moving on, as I said, in the context of motivation, the three main terms that need to be discussed are needs, drives, and incentives that contribute to motivation. So these are the three things that lead to motivation. These are the things that lead you to motivation. And what are these things? The first is needs. These are related to the biological states of cellular or bodily deficiencies that lead to drives. For example, individuals need water, food, and of course oxygen to survive. So this might be a little hard for you to understand all these definitions. So I've written them in my notes in a very simple manner. Reading from my notes, needs are related to the biological deficiency. Of course, I've written it as it is, same way. So because I thought that it wouldn't be so hard to understand. So what needs are? Needs are basically your bodily needs, like the things that you require in order to survive, at least the bare minimum things that you require in order to survive, in order to stay alive. These are your needs, your biological needs. So needs is actually a concept that is related to your biological requirements. or your cellular requirements, the requirements, the things that are required by your cell, because at a molecular level we are made up of several cells, like, right? Cell is this is the smallest single unit, right? So cell is in itself a body, you can say, and this body requires several things to keep on running, to keep on living, and we need to fulfill these requirements so that we can stay alive, and these requirements are known as needs in the concept of motivation and psychology. These requirements are known as needs, the needs of our cellular of our cells, the needs of our cells, or the need to fulfill our biological deficiencies, like our bodily deficiencies, like you are low on vitamin A or vitamin D, or you are low on calcium, so your body will urge you, your body will be motivated to fulfill those needs. Second is drives. So first was basically related to our biological conception. Second is drives. Feast and Rosenberg defined drives as the perceived state of tension that occur when our bodies are deficient in some need, creating an urge to relieve the tension. So as we discussed under need, a need leads to or compels drive. Thus when an individual is hungry, he or she will seek food. Thus the need leads to drive and makes individual to behave in such a way that the deficiency created is dealt with. So what my notes say in drives is that the state of tension, that state, drive means that state, and state of what? State of tension that occurs when our bodies are deficient in some need, creating an urge to relieve the tension. So drive is basically that state, that particular state, like you say you are very frustrated, so frustration is now actually your temporary state means that condition, present condition. So and drive is, I just tried to explain every single word to it, and that is almost impossible, right? I blend in so much into it that I suddenly start thinking that I should explain each and every word, but that is almost impossible. So try to work a little bit harder and try to grab some concepts by yourself. So drive is the state of tension. So drive is a state that is like tensed. It is a tense state. It is a state of tension, and which occurs when our bodies are deficient. Like which occurs when our body are in requirement of or are in need of something, and that creates an urge into it. That creates an urge to relieve that tension. So let's say that our bodies are deficient in calcium, so it will create a drive means it will create a state of tension inside our body, and our body will suddenly start it will start looking for calcium sources. It will start begging you for more and more calcium. It will start displaying to you that we need more calcium, we require calcium. In the same way, like if you think about it emotionally, you are in need of love or patience or care, then your mind will start telling you that we are in need of love, we need someone, need someone to talk to us, to listen to us. So this is a drive. This state of tension is known as drive. Third is incentive. So this is external or is from the environment. So up until now both were internal, right? Incentives are external. This is external or is from the environment and plays a role in motivating behaviors. It could be an object or an event. A trophy won in a game can be termed as an incentive to do well in that game. So according to my definition now, incentives this is an external push, force or motive that compels you to take action in the direction of your goal. Example, the winning prize money or trophy for a game. So this is an external force. It is an external push, or you can say it is an external reward that forces you to take action in that direction. So up until now you had to satisfy your own body needs and nobody was forcing you to do them. You had to do them out of your own necessity, right? Out of your own will to survive, will to stay alive. But now if someone wants to do something more than just survival, let's say that your parents wants you to become a good intellectual person or a high ranking official, so they want you to do something more than just surviving. And for this they will give you a push. Let's say they start giving you rewards, that for each chapter you complete you will get one chocolate, or for each chapter you finish and give test of, you will get let's say 1 hour of free time or 1 hour of video games. So these are external rewards that are making you work in a particular direction, that are forcing you to take action in a particular direction, and that direction is the direction of your goals, of course. So a little break here and let me eat something. And so now this is where our mind boggling, havoc wrecking topic comes. So it is, now let's just start it. Yet another term that needs to be highlighted is that of motives. Most often the terms motivation and motives are used interchangeably. However, they are different, as motivation can be termed as a general term, whereas motives is a specific term. Motive is something that actually drives an individual to take certain action. Motivation is a process within which a motive drives an individual towards certain action. Now you may be wondering that we kept on reading about motivation, that motivation is that drive, motivation is that force, or motivation is that purpose that drives you in a particular direction, right? So what exactly is motive and what is motivation? Because we have read so many times that motivation, like this is your motivation to become, like I gave you an example just recently, that you want to become, that you are studying very hard. So what is your motivation to study hard? It might be to become an IAS officer, or to become a doctor or an engineer, or anything worthwhile. So that means that is your motivation, right? So what is motive now? I mean, what's your motive? Now I'll explain motive to you like so easy peasy. I don't think anyone else can explain it in such an easy manner, because I just got its meaning just right now while teaching you and while making this video. I have suddenly realized its meaning and how to explain it to you. So motivation is that you for your studying, the process is, you can say the process is studying, and your motivation for that process is to become an IAS officer or to become a doctor. And your motive for becoming a doctor is that you want to serve patients, or maybe you want to have a high paying job, or maybe you want to move abroad somewhere to live happily. See, these are three terms in here, right? You want to become an IAS officer, you want to become a civil servant. But why do you want to become a civil servant? You want to become a civil servant to help people, right? To make this world a better place. So that is your motive. You are studying hard and your motivation for that is to become a civil servant. And the motive behind studying hard is to become a civil servant to help people, to help change this world around you. Okay, so that is your motive. Motive is your actual purpose, while motivation can be termed as your goal to achieve that final purpose. Okay, so you can basically say that there are two goals inherent in it. One is the external goal that is visible, and the second is like a goal more specifically known to you. So motivation is your goal, motivation is that final goal, your achievement that you want to achieve, your task that you want to accomplish. And motive is the feeling, the sense behind it, that what the reason behind achieving that task. Motivation is the task and motive is the reason behind motivation. So motive is the reason behind motivation. Okay, now according to my definition, let's read what motive is now. Motive is the strong reason or thrust behind achieving a certain goal. Wow, I've already done it. So, and the difference between motivation and motive is the reward and motive is the urge to obtain it. So you can say that motivation is it's actually really simple. So let's say that your motivation is to become an IAS officer, but there could be thousands of people who don't want to become an IAS officer. Why isn't everyone's motivation same? Why? it is because of the motive, that some people have different motives, some people have some different motives. So your motive is to help people, your motive is to bring about more efficient policies, so you are attracted by the motivation of being an IAS officer. Some people may have a motive of serving patients, helping people heal. Some people may have a motive of fighting for their country. So they all have different motivation, and different motivation is related to different appealing motives. So they all have different urges. So for one motivation, one person doesn't feel the urge to obtain it. He has no he does not feel any attachment to that motivation. He doesn't feel the urge, like that feeling that I want to achieve this, I want to obtain it. But the other person feels a very strong urge that I want to obtain it. So let's say that there's a tree, there's a good long tall tree in your background, and suddenly you all are playing around it, 4 or 5 people, and suddenly 1 or 2 of the boys say that I want to climb this tree. And the other 2 feel that no, I don't want to climb this tree. Why do I want to climb this tree? But 2 of them are feeling a strong urge that we want to climb this tree. We want to see what it's like up there and how fun it would be climbing this tree. But at the same time, the other same 2 children, they are not feeling like it, right? They are not feeling any urge to climb that tree, to go on top of it, to view how everything looks from the top of the tree. So everyone can have different urges. For everyone different things are appealing, right? You may like samosa, you may like gulab jamun, the other person might not like it. And the likeness, like you like something, and that is your motive, that becomes your motive for achieving your motivation. So your likeness or your agreeability, or you can say that your wishes, are the actual reasons for your differing motivation. That because everyone likes different things, so everyone had different motivations. So this is basically the difference between motive and motivations. Now another definitions that I've written for motivation and motives are: for motivation, it is the process that is initiated by motives and ends at achieving it. So I've explained motivation in terms of motive here. So motivation is that process that is started due to motives, that is started by motives, and end when that motive is achieved. When that motive is obtained, then your motivation ends. Okay. And second is your motives, the definition of motive. So motive is the factors that start the process of motivation and brings it to an end. So motive, like the factor, what is the factor of serving people, of helping people, of defending your nation? These are the factors that start your process of motivation. That start your process of motivation. That is, motivation means achieving a particular goal and brings it to an end. Now moving on, there are different types of motivations. Like you can basically different types of ways in achieving your goal. There are 2 types of ways in which you can achieve your goals. First is primary motivation and secondary motivation. Not 2, there are actually 4. So first are primary and secondary motivation. The 2 main types of motivation are primary and secondary motivation. Primary motivation can also be termed as basic motivation. So primary motivation is the basic task accomplishment. So motivation, you can simply say motivation is a task accomplishment, or the accomplishment of a particular kind of task. And primary motivation is the accomplishment of the basic tasks. And basic tasks are those which are related to our survival, or stable life, which is hunger, thirst, sleep, sex, avoidance of pain, and so on. These mainly influence an individual's behavior at a basic level, and these needs are also related to the basic needs for preservation of self, like I said, for survival. These are the basic survival needs. And according to my definition, I've written which is of primary motivation. Primary motivation includes the fulfillment or attainment of the most basic needs or demands that are mostly related to our bodies. Example: hunger, thirst, sex, avoidance of pain, etc. You can clearly see that all these demands are actually related at the basic bodily level. These mainly now secondary motivation can be termed as learned motivation, and these may differ from individual to individual. They are also related to the priorities and values of the individual. These will be, so you can clearly see that secondary motivation has not been defined very well. And I've also not defined it because they're saying that they'll explain it in later in the chapter. So I've also written secondary motivation is related to the priorities and values of an individual. They differ from an. So secondary motivation, you can say that they are related to priorities, right? So let's say just for imagine, for goodness sake, that there's suddenly a zombie apocalypse, and like your family and your neighbor's family both are in danger. So who will you save? You will obviously save your family, right? So that is your secondary motivation. You are motivated to save your family. Okay, and secondary motivation, it is termed as secondary motivation because you think that your priority is to save your family first. So this comes under secondary motivation because you are motivated for your priorities or for your values that you have been told. That let's say there is a guy and there is a girl, both are strangers to you, and they are both stuck up with zombies, and zombies are about to eat them. So who will you save? Like most probably guys will save the girl. Why? Because since an early age we have been told that girls are nimble, girls need to be protected by boys, and all those values that have been hammered into us from an early age. So this then your values will suddenly come to your mind that no, I should save that girl first. It is my responsibility, or it is like you will feel it like a kind of your duty to do it. So this will also come under secondary motivation. Now comes extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Now, as the name suggests, extrinsic means external motivation, intrinsic means internal motivation. This is yet another way in which motivation can be categorized. Extrinsic motivation can be defined as motivation that comes from outside the person and usually involves rewards and praises. This is really a very basic and easy explanation, so I will not expand it further. The examples of extrinsic motivation are reward, praises, money, feedback, and so on. Where were we? These motivators can be applied to let individuals carry out activities that the individual may not do otherwise. And as such, these motivators provide satisfaction or pleasure that the task may not provide. So they are saying that why is extrinsic motivation necessary? Extrinsic motivation and the factors affecting extrinsic motivation are necessary because in this case we are making the person do something that the person may not like. Like we are making the person clean his room and he may not like to do it, so he won't be motivated by it by himself, right? We need to forcefully motivate him to do it. And for or the person may not like to study, he might want to play games all day, so we need to forcefully motivate him that no, you should study also, and you need to study because that is an important work, that is an important task. So to forcefully motivate him, we give him some kind of prize, or we give him some praise, or we give him some kind of rewards, that if you study for 1 hour, I will give you 1 chocolate, I will give you 2 chocolates, or I will let you play games for 1 hour, something like that, like I previously gave an example. So this is external motivation that comes from outside. And now moving on, external motivation does have a number of advantages, as it is not only linked with the increase in behavior but also with increase in performance. Now let's say that 5, 6, 7 children are playing football. They are playing football by themselves. Okay, nobody forced them to play football. But let's say that an uncle comes and he says that whoever will do the first goal, I will give him a chocolate. So suddenly now they were playing football by their own. They were motivated by their own self. But suddenly now they become more motivated to hit the first goal. They start playing more seriously. They put more action in it for the chocolate, right? So it increased your productivity. It increased your productivity for the same thing, for the same job, right? Which you were doing by yourself, but you were not that productive. But when an external motivation comes, you suddenly become much more productive. However, it can also be criticized as if the reward, for example, is removed, then the behavior may also decrease. So let's say that an uncle comes to you every day and he says that whoever will hit the goal first, I will give him a chocolate, and you go on this routine for a few days. But after some days, then the uncle comes and watches the game, but he does not give any reward. It does not say that whoever hits the first goal, I will give him chocolate and anything like that. So now the productivity levels will decrease again. The productivity levels were high as long as the reward was there, but when the reward is removed, the productivity also naturally decreases. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Further, extrinsic motivation may be effective with simpler tasks as opposed to tasks that require creative and lateral thinking. So this is another drawback of external motivation, that if a person is let's say if a person can study by himself but he is not motivated to study, he does not want to sit for long hours, then you can give him some kind of motivation, right? If you study for 1 hour or 2 hours, I'll give you this. Let's say he's studying English, or he's reading stories, or he's reading a novel, and he has the capability, he has the abilities to do it. So you can extend his time, you can increase his productivity. But let's say you ask the same person to solve complex mathematical equations or calculations, but no matter what kind of reward you give him, he won't be able to do it, right? Because he has not learned those equations, he has no idea how to solve them. So in this case, external motivation will not work. For example, if a child enjoys keeping his or her room organized and tidy, but if parents start providing reward for the same, the child will keep the room tidy not because of the intrinsic motivation, that is the enjoyment, but will do so because of the reward given by the parents. So this is also another case scenario. To take yet another example, if an employee adequately uses safety devices because he or she is intrinsically motivated to do so, and if his or her superior provides him or her with extrinsic motivation for use of the safety devices, the employee will start using safety devices due to the extrinsic. So you've got the idea what it means. Now moving on to intrinsic motivation, it can be defined as motivation that comes from within a person and includes the elements of challenges, enjoyment, mastery and autonomy. So basically they're saying that intrinsic motivation is the motivation that comes from inside you, and it has 4 elements. What are these elements? These elements are challenge, enjoyment, mastery and autonomy. We will read about them in detail now. So the 4 components of intrinsic motivation are as follows. Challenge. This is related to the extent to which an individual enjoys the excitement that accompanies a new challenge. So we all have some kind of excitement for new challenges, right? Let's say our teacher says that we will do a quiz and let's see who does the best. So you feel kind of challenged, right? Okay, so they're throwing me a challenge, we are having a competition, let's see who does the best. I'll come first, I will do best. So this is the kind of excitement that comes with the challenge. Second is enjoyment. This is related to the pleasure that an individual may obtain from carrying out the task. So we have intrinsic motivation for either of the 4 reasons. These are the reasons why we may have intrinsic motivation. And the second reason is enjoyment. So you may actually enjoy doing the task. So let's say that your father wants you to become a big cricketer or a big footballer, and you naturally also like playing football and cricket. So this becomes your intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? So because you enjoy playing cricket, you enjoy that process of becoming a cricketer. So this is also your intrinsic motivation for becoming a cricketer now. Mastery. This is related to the sense of pride and accomplishment that an individual may feel when he or she carries out a difficult task. So I can tell this personally, that I had been trying to do backflips for a lot of time. It took me a lot of effort, and each time I'd fail, and finally after so many hours and hours of practice and so many different variations, I finally managed to learn how to do a backflip. So after that I felt a kind of pride inside me. I felt like, yeah man, I've finally accomplished it. It took me so much time, but I've finally done it, and now I can do it in any situation. Now I've finally grasped this method, I've finally grasped the technique how to do it, and now I can easily do it. Like, this is a lifetime, this is a permanent achievement to me. So you feel a kind of sense of pride when you carry out a difficult task and you master it. And fourth is autonomy and self-determination. The autonomy that an individual enjoys while carrying out the task, that is the freedom with which the individual can determine what is to be done and how it is to be done. So let's say that you are given a group and you are given a certain task, that you have to do this task, and you are made the leader of the group, and you enjoy ordering people around and telling them and showing them how intellectual you are by organizing them in a beautiful way, by giving them like new methods, by providing them with new and effective methods as a leader to do that task properly. So this is your sense of autonomy or determination, like a kind of freedom. And another way that I would define autonomy is that autonomy is the freedom that the individual enjoys and with which he or she can determine what is to be done and how it is to be done. So you can say that your parents tell you to study. So earlier your parents would teach you by themselves, they would take control over your everything. But now that you've grown big, you've become an adult, your parents leave you free, that you study by yourself. So you you kind of enjoy a kind of autonomy in it, right? That no one is asking you, no one is now taking reports of you, that how much you have done, why, how you have done, or why are you not studying, why are you not doing. You have a kind of freedom now, that you can study by yourself. You can choose which topics to study first, which to study later, where to study, how to study, or from whom to study. You have this kind of autonomy with you. Intrinsic motivation plays an important role in enhancing the productivity as well as creativity in the individuals. Now, intrinsic motivation is especially useful for creativity, for creation. So now we come to our theories of motivation. There are, I guess, 4 or 5 theories there are. I know if you read them through the text of the book directly, you may not be able to understand them properly and exactly what they mean. So obviously for you, I've read all these theories in detail and read them from several sources, and now summed up a rather factual part of it. So I'll just explain to you what the theories mean quickly in my through my own notes. I wouldn't read the exact text from theory, because the exact text, all the important things I've already noted down. So I'll just quickly take you through the theories. First is your instinct theory. Now, before starting on the instinct theory, it is important to know what instinct actually is. So instinct is an adaptive pattern of behavior formed through the interaction of genetics and ordinary development processes. Now you might be wondering, what is this? What does the adapted pattern and ordinary development process mean? What bullshit is this sprouting now? He was saying that in the book it's written in a very difficult language, but now he's doing the same thing, right? No. But no, I'm not doing the same thing. So I'll just explain to you what adapted pattern means. So adapted pattern means that you've gone through this pattern. Now you become habitual of this pattern. You've adapted yourself to this pattern. This pattern is not something like that is clearly completely new to you. You have never seen or faced anything like that. So let's suppose that this is your first time that you are going to a battle. Okay, let's say you are going to a war. So you're completely unaware of how to handle the battle, how to handle multiple people fighting each other, and how to fight your opponents in such a crowd, in such a swarm. But if you've fought many battles over and over and over, then your instincts take over. You suddenly feel a premonition, you can say, or your instinct tell you that someone is about to attack you from behind. Take care of your left, cover from the right, and all those things, right? So you instinct as an adapted pattern of behavior. Like you have your behavior, or you can say that instinct is actually a part of your behavior, how you behave. But instinct is that adapted part, means it's a part that you have adapted to, and it is formed through the interaction of. Now how is instinct formed? It is formed through the interaction of your genetics, like all the processes, all the information that is stored in your genes, and how your genetics interact with your daily ordinary development processes. Here means day-to-day development day-to-day activities, all your simple activities like going to office, going to home, studying, working, and all those day-to-day normal activities, every basic, normal, hard, every kind of activity, these are called ordinary development processes. Like how an ordinary person grows, we're taking this into account. So how your genes interact with your, you can say, environment, how your genes interact with your surroundings, with your environment, and how they adapt to it. That adaptation is called an instinct. And when that adaptation is just adaptation, but when that adaptation comes into your behavior, that you become so habitual of it that it has become a part of your behavior, then it becomes an instinct. So like earlier times, there were wars everywhere, people were fighting each other, so people were very cautious and aware. So whenever, let's say, a sneak attack suddenly happens to a person who's gone to market, like say a soldier has gone to market, and out of the blue, out of nowhere, suddenly a sneak attack happens, then he can actually manage to evade that attack, because his instincts has become so sharp that it has become into his behavior to be careful of his surroundings, to act suddenly, to act very hastily. So it has become a part of his behavior now. So that is what instinct is. Instinct is an adapted pattern of behavior, like how you behave. What is your pattern of behavior? That adapted pattern of behavior, which is formed through interaction of genetics and ordinary development processes. Now, instincts can be widespread and similar among members of a species, because obviously they are related to genetics. So they can be like similar to a lot of people. Like Indians may have similar instincts. or Africans may have some different kind of similar instincts. It also depends on the location you're using. Let's say suppose we take a very previous time, very ancient time. So some people had to live in mountains, so they had to be careful of mountain goats or mountain yaks, or you can say mountain animals, right? And mountain animals were good at climbing but not at running very fast, so they had to adapt to that kind of environment, and their instincts were for fighting mountain animals who were good at climbing. But they would not be able to use the same instincts that efficiently when fighting land animals like cheetah or tiger, who are adapted at running. But the people living there, they have adapted to those animals, so they can maybe they can climb a tree very fast, or they can maybe avoid that running cheetah into ramming into them, or some kind of that behavior. It basically means adapting to your situation, adapting to your environment, and making it a part of behavior. Like, it's not a one-time thing. You've completely adapted to it. You know how your environment works now, and you're always aware of it. Like, in some way, deep inside, you're always aware of your environment. That is what instinct is. Now, what is instinct theory? This theory explains, now again I'm reading it from my notes. This theory explains that motivation is caused due to instincts and are results of biological and genetic programming. So they are saying that your motivation, like your urge to achieve any task, any particular task, it is caused by your instincts. It means your adapted pattern of behavior, your adaptation to your environment, and the results of biological and genetic programming. So it means they're saying that how you have adapted to your environment, and how your biology is, and how your genetic programming is. These are what motivate. What are the reasons for your motivations? Instincts, again I tell you, are different from learned or memorized behavior. So it's not something like you go from a particular path and every day a cheetah comes there, so you are getting trained that this cheetah will come in from this direction and he will attack in this direction and then he will jump to that direction. So you got trained and now that is instinct. No, instincts are not trained. Instincts cannot be trained. They cannot be part of memorized behavior. Okay, so let's say someone gives you a chapter and you read a chapter again and again and again, so you become habitual of this new chapter. Now you can answer any question, so this has become your instinct. No, that is not instinct. Instinct is actually based on unexpected situations, but still being able to handle that in that unexpected situation, still being able to adapt to it quickly. That is what instinct is. So instinct theory basically says that the way you adapt to your environment and how your biology is made and how your genetic programming is, these are the factors that cause you to be motivated. These are the factors that are result of your motivation. So let's say that a guy has, like, someone is born in the suburban area and he has a very poor family background. His health is not really good. Okay, let's suppose that his health is not really good, so you can say that his biology is not very good, and his genetic programming is that his father and his mother, they were both poor people, uneducated people. So in his genes, uneducation has actually come in through his genes now. He doesn't know anything much about education and all that, and they say that and his instincts are that he has adapted himself to live in this poor society. So he doesn't even feel the need to become educated because he has adapted himself to this society. He has started living in this society comfortably now, or you can say that as comfortably as it can get in a suburban area. So he will never feel the need to study, need to get educated. Okay, he will never feel that need. But let's say that his instinct, he is not instincted to his environment. He is not adapted to his environment, or he's not adapted to the situations that he has to face in environment. He's fed up of his area, but his genes are something that he cannot deny. Like, his parents were uneducated, but they were, let's say, hard-working people. So hard work and uneducation can be changed, and being uneducated can be changed because they didn't have the opportunity maybe to read the books. That's why they remain educated, but they had the ability to work hard. So now the new boy that is born, he has hard-working genes in him, and once he is introduced to books, he will work hard with them, and he can change his environment, he can change his social surroundings, and then these genes, these instinctual training of this new environment, these will again be passed on to his progenies, to his sons and daughters, and for all the other generations. Now, second is our drive reduction theory. This theory states that we are motivated. Now, one more thing, that these are only theories. It's not like whatever instinct theory says that is perfectly right, that is completely accurate. There can be falsehoods in it, and in fact complete theories could be false. Okay, So these are just theories, and we just need to read them to get a multi-purpose view, like a multifaceted view of these things, how we can see things from so many different views. So second is your drive reduction theory. This theory states that we are motivated to reduce the push exerted by drives or internal stimuli that represents biological needs. So drive reduction theory basically says that we feel motivated only so that we can reduce the drive, that push that is coming from inside to satisfy our needs. Like a push is coming from inside your stomach, a drive is created through your empty stomach. It's saying that I want food. So to suppress this drive, to suppress this push that is coming from your body to defeat hunger, to satisfy yourself, you become motivated to find food, you become motivated to earn food, or maybe to get food and just satisfy your stomach. So this is what drive reduction says, that it is saying that to suppress the drives that are formed through our biological needs, that is on the reason why we get motivated. Okay, so this is completely related to biology. In short, it says that we are motivated to reduce the push exerted by drives. Now, what is drive? Drive is actually that feeling that it gives you that you need to do this. That is drive. That it gives you the purpose that you need to do this because it is important, why it is important. It gives you the reasons that you need to do this and why you need to do this. That is the drive. Like someone is asking you, someone is forcefully saying you that, bro, you need to do this. So that is what drives. I mean, I just actually can't explain the meaning of drive completely. These are so basic words that no matter how hard I try, I can never be able to explain that in such a sufficient manner. So you should, but you have an idea of what drive is, I suppose. Okay, so which comes from our internal biological or basic needs. Okay, now moving on, we need to understand one more word. There's a word in the book which means homeostasis, and homeostasis means a steady biological state, a stable biological state. When some internal system is out of balance, this is how I'll explain to you now what drive reduction theory is. When some internal system is out of balance, a drive builds up to force behavior that restores that balance. This is what drive reduction theory is about. Our behavior, however, is not always consistent with our drives. Okay, so it means that drive is created to tell you that we have some kind of biological need, we are deficient in this need or that, but it is not necessary that you will always listen to your biological drives and you will always feel motivated with these things. So imagine that you are feeling very hungry, but you are also feeling very lazy, so you procrastinate, you think that I'll eat food after I get up, I'll eat food after some time, even though you're feeling hungry right now. So you didn't get motivated through your biological need, did you? You didn't, right? So that is why this is a little drawback to the drive reduction theory. Now third is our arousal theory. Okay, sorry, here arousal theory. So arousal theory, this theory states that there is an optimal level of arousal. So it's saying that there is a particular level of arousal and we act so as to bring about that optimal level, and we feel motivated, we do anything or everything only to achieve that particular level of arousal, only to achieve that optimal level of arousal. Optimum performance on an easy task occurs at a higher level of arousal than on a difficult task. So they're saying that we perform better on an easy task at a higher level of arousal. So if we are very highly aroused, then we will perform better at an easy task, but we may not be able to perform better at the difficult task also. Okay, so arousal is not necessarily related to your productivity. It means it can increase your productivity at an easy task, of course, but the task becomes hard or very hard, then it's tough to increase the productivity. Arousal, it refers to the state of physiological and psychological activation or alertness of an individual. So arousal basically refers to your alertness, that when you become alert at psychological level and at physical level also. That is what arousal is. Okay, moving on now, what is optimal arousal model? So optimal arousal model is basically based on Yerkes and Dodson's law of inverted U. Maybe you have read it, or maybe I guess you haven't, because I studied in my second year. So it might be that you haven't heard of what Yerkes Dodson U, inverted U law is. So inverted U law states that when there is a particular arousal, you can say arousal, or there was one more word for it, like there's it's also related to stress. So Yerkes Dodson law is also related to stress. So when there is a particular level of stress, your productivity increases, then it reaches a point after which even if the stress keeps on increasing, then the productivity will decrease only. So like just the graph shows that in case of arousal, as the arousal increases, so does the performance increase. But after some time, if the arousal keeps on increasing, the performance will start decreasing. So you need to reach this optimal level of arousal, this part here, which is the highest, this point here, which is at the higher. Wait. Oh man, come on, let's go back. So the top of this hill, the top point of this hill is where the optimal level of arousal is, and you need to reach and maintain this level of arousal. If you go any higher, your productivity will decrease. If you go any lower, then also your productivity is decreased. So you need to maintain this level of arousal. The model states that we function best when we are moderately aroused and energized, and both low and high arousal or energy levels lead to poor performance. So they're saying that when we are moderately, not very high, not very low, when we are medium aroused, then we work best at that level. Low arousal and high arousal both lead to poor performance. The model is based on the work carried by Yerkes and Dodson, known as Yerkes-Dodson law. Okay, so you can read these theories by yourself, of course, and it is very important to read it. But even if you don't read it, you just watch this video and read the notes, you'll still pass the exam with flying colors. But for those of you who wish to make a career in psychology or wish to study deeply, I do advise that you read these theories in detail. So next is our incentive theory. This theory holds that certain external stimuli act as incentives. We read about incentives previously, right? Incentives are some kind of external motivation in form of rewards or praises. So this theory says that certain external stimuli act as incentives, pulling us towards some behavior. So they are basically saying that there are some external factors which keep us motivated. There are some external things which help us feel motivated. Incentive is any pleasing external stimuli that can serve as goals towards which our behavior is directed. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So incentive theory was pretty easy and straightforward. So moving on to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This theory states that there are certain needs arranged in a hierarchy. So basically they are saying that there are certain needs which are arranged in an order of importance from lower to higher importance. If and only if our needs at a lower level are met, we can be motivated by higher level needs. So I have made this whole diagram in the notes also. So basically what they're saying is that if our lower level needs are satisfied, only then will we think and work towards achieving the higher level of needs. This theory is intuitively appealing but is difficult to validate experimentally. So they are saying that in theory it is very good, it seems very true, but in real life and experimentation it is very difficult to prove. Then comes our McClelland's acquired needs theory. McClelland's, I think it's McClelland's acquired needs theory. This theory highlights the three basic needs: achievement, affiliation, and power. So these are the three basic needs of human beings. They basically identifying these three basic needs, and which are, first is the need for achievement. So this is related to achieving. So our first need is that we feel a need for some kind of achievement, that I have some achievement to show to people that I've achieved this, I've achieved that. So we feel a kind of need for achievements. This is related to achieving excellence, overcome goals that are challenging, overcoming obstacles and difficulties. I mean, like, let's say that you have become an IAS officer, you become a civil servant, and you are sitting with high-ranked officials of your level. Then you won't tell your achievements like, I won a medal in a game, in a like video game, and I got that title in the video game, and I achieved this I have reached this level in a video game. Those won't be counted as achievements, right? It basically changes according to your environment and the circumstance you are in. But achievement is considered something that is challenging, that is considered as an obstacle and difficult, and there is competition in it. and you need to work hard in order to achieve it. That is considered an achievement. So I've written it here, explain need for achievement. This is related to achieving excellence, overcoming goals that are challenging, overcoming obstacles and difficulties, competition and persistence, need to master skills, and so on. Second, our second basic need is the need for affiliation. This is related to maintaining close and intimate relationship with others. So we feel a kind of need for affiliation, that we are connected with someone. We feel a need of being connected. Okay, so that's why we form relationships. We form relationships of girlfriend and boyfriend, father and son, mother, daughter, or husband, wife, because we always feel the need to be connected with someone, to be connected with something, and this is our need for affiliation. Third is, of course, our need for power. Now, this is related to having an influence, impact, and control over others. So what this means is that we have an influence and control of not just ourselves but of other peoples also. This is one of our basic needs, the thirst for, the hunger for power. Okay, so basically our motivation is finished right here. All the concepts related to motivation and all that is finished. And in the next video we'll cover up emotions. I've already written the notes of emotions and all that, but I'll explain them all in next video because my tab's battery is almost finished. So see you soon.